The voice of America's team, Brad Sham, joining us on the Diamond Factory hotline after the 20-point win. Good morning, Brad.
Morning, boys. How we doing?
Doing well. Is this a good time for the bye, in your opinion?
Yeah, almost never a bad time for it. Sometimes you really would like to have it be a little later. This is not one of those times. It's perfect. Wilson, fortunately, needed an IV instead of having an injury, so he's fine. But there's a number of those guys that you talk to who play. Dalton Schultz, a great example. He had probably his best game of the year. He hadn't been healthy, and I asked him afterwards if he was feeling the best that he's felt, and he said, "I'm feeling the best I've felt, but I don't feel good." And the bye is a perfect time. I think he kind of speaks for a lot of guys.
How about the stable of tight ends, man? Like all the weapons yesterday seemed like they wanted to get Gallup going early on. Speedy did his thing, and then you had Hendershot and Ferguson stepping in along with Dalton Schultz. What'd you think of the tight end group?
Well, I think I've been talking about the tight end group since the very beginning, especially before Gallup was playing, and when Jalen Tolbert's still feeling his way. I mean, those guys are weapons, and I'm not sure that they couldn't have been used more. And I hope going forward, as Gallup gets a little bit more into his flow, and don't forget they didn't have Noah Brown yesterday, so that was another reason to use those guys. But I frankly hope that they will look at particularly Schultz and Hendershot as guys they can get down the field a little bit. Ferguson can also get down the field, but in a little different way. But I think the tight ends, and McEwen is another one who can move. I think they can use those four in ways to supplement the wide receivers and broaden the arsenal that's available to them in the passing game.
What did you think of Dak's performance?
He was good. He made. I'd have to go back. I will go back and look at the interception. He made what looked like a bad decision. Possibly didn't see the guy. I don't know, but I mean, he was what you had to have. There was always, doesn't matter how good the defense plays. It's a long year, and there's going to be a day when something unusual happens. And Chicago and their offense is that something. It's unusual. It's a different kind of running attack, and it's designed the way it is partly because they don't have the offensive line to support a conventional drop-back passing attack. So there was always going to be a day when the offense had to step up and play, and yesterday was that day. And for that and that doesn't mean they can't continue to do it. And for the offense to take that step, the quarterback has got to make some throws. He's got to make some plays, some reads, get out there with his legs and take advantage of things that are there. And I thought he did all those things yesterday. I think he looked like the guy that you want to have running it.
You mentioned you're going to go and look at that interception a little bit, but typically, how much of that is a lot of times on those routes where the like a safety may jump in front? How often is that on the receiver?
It's very frequently, RJ. It's not on any one person more than the other. And a lot of times there's a little bit of it that's on the receiver. And when did he break, and how did he run the route exactly? And did he see the safety, and did he clear the way he's supposed to? There's way more than people want to know. There is a lot of it that's on the receiver.
Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys here on the Diamond Factory hotline. So going back to the run defense, are you to a degree dismissing the run D against Chicago because of what they do, or are you kind of concerned about it moving forward even after they traded for Hankins?
Well, I thought Hankins did okay. I mean, Sam Williams is a pretty good player. They didn't have him yesterday. Mm-hmm. The Bears were the number one running offense coming in the game. It's not like they were chopped liver and all of a sudden turned into foie gras. They'd been doing that to people, and they'd obviously did it to New England a little bit. you want to play better. Everybody wants to play a perfect game all the time, and one defensive lineman is not going to do it. A lot of that, I thought Brian brought us on the post-game show, made a lot of sense yesterday, talking about the thing about the Bears offense that is so good, and it centers around the quarterback, and he's unusual. He even is different than what you see from Jalen Hurts, but they get you looking the wrong way, and in that kind of a game in that league, one step will make a play go badly. Because if you take those offensive linemen and you just put their names on a board and you say, today we're going to shuffle everything up, we're going to repick all the teams. We're not talking about drafting out of college. We're talking about right now. I'm not sure how many of those offensive linemen of the Bears would go very high. And the whole is greater than the sum of the parts because the runners are really good. The scheme is exceptional, and the quarterback, it makes it all deceptive. So do the Cowboys have to play better going forward in run defense? Sure they do. But the most important thing is that you win the game, and they were able to make enough plays. That's why turnovers are important. That's the takeaway that changed the game was in the running game. So you don't want to play like that all the time, and I don't think they will, and I don't think they have. And I think that as to label it a concern, I'm not concerned. I'm concerned that they win the games. That's all.
Did yesterday show you that Tony Pollard should either start or get more running back carries than Zeke?
I thought you'd lead with that from your Twitter feed, actually.
Well, I wanted to, they told me to be nice with play-by-play guys. I should have softened up Jim Nantz, so I was softening you up first.
Yeah, stop that. I'm not in favor of him starting.
Okay.
I think it's clear that they haven't used him enough going back to last year. Thought one of their issues down the stretch last year was not using Pollard or Lamb enough. But last year was last year. I mean, it's clear that he needs to have the ball more than he's been getting it. I think this is a big picture thing, Sean, that I think is really important. I think one of Mike McCarthy's real strengths is that he knows his team. And you can have the right people playing at the right times while you're taking care of the chemistry. That's an important – Ezekiel Elliott's an important player in that locker room.
Yeah.
He's still a good player. He's clearly not as explosive as Pollard, and one day Pollard won't be either. But right now, they are who they are. Elliott does some things better than Pollard, and Pollard does need to have the ball, in my opinion, more than he has had it, and I would still be starting Elliott and giving him his share. And there are times and places when the weather changes, and you see that you play the game that's in front of you, not the one that you've plotted out, but the one that's unfolding in front of you. And there are going to be times when Elliott's going to be better suited for the occasion, and there will be times when Pollard is, and they would probably be well advised to be more open to letting Pollard be that guy when it's those times.
See, that was very productive and healthy. Good answer.
Thanks.
Do you see a move made before the deadline?
By the way, I did not get to hear your conversation with Ned, so I'm going to have to go back and hear it because apparently Jim was not productive and healthy in conversation with you, from what I can gather.
Well, I think that you take an approach, right? Like, that we have to just ask certain questions.
Of course.
You can answer it the way you want. I don't think you know what the topics are. You're aware that Zeke Pollard is going to be a topic.
Sure.
And Jim apparently was not aware that Jerry and Snyder and
Jim Dick Ebersol was.
And I really wanted his. I like to ask you. I nerd out over the stuff, right? Like broadcasting stuff. So
yeah.
But that's maybe that's not so much for the audience. I wanted to ask him about Dick Ebersol and Romo,
sure.
And Jim was not happy that I asked.
I will say this, and I have a little something more, somewhere between a casual relationship with Jim and a friendship, but we get along great. But I think that there are times when there are people in certain positions,
Yep.
Not just in our industry, in a lot of them, but especially in ours, where they just don't think they should have to answer certain things or address certain things. Not all guys are like that. Jim can be like that a little bit sometimes. Apparently, he was that morning. Your question was, will there be a move or should there be a move?
Yes, correct. That was exactly my question.
Yeah, I think that let's know what it is they're getting and what the price is. I would like to see. I really feel like a lot of people that I've seen in the public discourse, if you get a guy, make sure you know what you want to do with him. Don't just get a name and throw him out there. Have a plan. And for the most part, they have done that. I still think that if they can find a threat that opens up the passing game a little bit more, that would make them even more explosive going forward, for whom the price made sense, then I would be very much in favor of that.
What is your confidence level in Tony Pollard to be the dude for 2022 and beyond? I know it was just one game, and we talked about it going in. I almost felt kind of bad for Tony Pollard because I was like, man, if this doesn't work out, I feel like people are going to crap on his ability to be the lead back. Only 14 carries, but Lord knows his numbers look like it was a lot more carries than that. He was phenomenal by, I think, pretty much every conceivable definition yesterday.
How many times do you think they would have given it to him if it was a competitive game in the fourth quarter?
I do think they would have given him the ball. Is your concern that maybe they would not have?
No. I think they would have too. Because at 14 carries, that's his maximum in his NFL career. I think he matched his career amount of carries. And when the game was, 6 minutes to go and you knew it was over, unless the Mavericks all of a sudden took the field, and then you knew you're in big trouble. I almost cussed right there. I thought, gosh, I wonder if, let's just say the game would have been 30-22.
Right.
I wonder how many more carries they are willing to give him. To your question, I don't know how many carries they're willing to give him because, I think I know he's the best running back on the team. But I'm just wondering how many carries are they comfortable giving him? 14, I know they're comfortable with. Are they comfortable with giving him 18 carries a game? 20, 20 is kind of, I think, the max they would go to. But to your question, if they're not willing to ever give him the ball 20 times, I don't know if you can call him a lead back. You can call him the guy that gets the majority of the carries in a shared operation.
Right. Now, and we got some Jerry audio. I can't pull it up on my computer, so I'm hoping that we have this clip. Is Jerry talked about how Zeke goes is what leads this team, and we'll try to get to that in just 1 minute. But there's lots of things to like about about Tony Pollard. There's plenty of things to like about Ezekiel Elliott as well. This was the craziest stat from the game, though, because I can't believe that this is true. And then it also brought up a person whose life has gone on in a very different direction since then. Tony Pollard, the first Cowboys running back with 3+ rushing touchdowns since Joseph Randle in 2015. How crazy is it that Zeke has never done that? And then, unfortunately, how long has it been since you thought about Joseph Randle?
Well, I haven't thought about him in a long time, unfortunately, and that's life.
Yeah.
As a professional athlete, we all think we're going to be remembered, and You're not. Unless you are Emmitt Smith, you're not going to get remembered. But, gosh, I didn't know that about Zeke until obviously.
I couldn't believe it. I went through all of his game logs, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to trust this statistic. I was amazed to learn that.
Yeah. But, it's, opportunity. The other thing, too, is somewhat after Zeke's rookie year, in a weird way, he started getting worse. I know that the whole thing laying over him in 2017 with the Ohio State incident that he had, that he ended up getting suspended 6 games. He was never really super focused in that season. And then 2018, still a really good running back. But when you watch yesterday, Tony Pollard, I hate taking shots at Zeke this way. Zeke is a good running back for what he does. But he's only scoring probably one touchdown yesterday.
Sure.
Zeke, he can't.
He's not getting the last one.
He's going to make positive yards on those plays. He's going to have a positive run. So you're not going to go and go, God, he looks like Eddie George on the Dallas Cowboys, where you're like, do your feet get higher than 1 inch off the ground? I mean, Eddie George was completely finished when he showed up as a Dallas Cowboy. And Zeke's not Eddie George, if you're old enough to remember Eddie George on the Dallas Cowboys. But at the same time, you know that a couple of the cuts and the moves and in and out that Pollard can do in traffic, Zeke just can't do. He's going to look at the guy and go, here's the deal. Me versus you, I'm going to carry you for 4 yards. I'm going to ram my head into your chest, and we're going to go on a ride for 4 yards, and then I'm going to go down. That's good. That's who Zeke is. That's how he runs now, because he knows I can't elude people. So if they're in my way, I'm just going to find them, and I'm going to throw my body into them.
I wanted to address this is an astute text, so I decided to do the research on this ahead of time just in case this came up. So thank you for texting that in. From the 405, the Bears don't have a great run defense. I need to see Tony Pollard versus a team like the Eagles before I go, let's cut Zeke. I decided to do that research for everyone in advance. Tony Pollard has run the ball at least 10 times, 19 games in his career. Now, I get it, the variety of opponent and everything like that, but I wanted to take a broad sample size across the 4 years in games when he gets at least 10 carries. Now, to your point from just a few minutes ago, 10 carries does not make you a lead back, but as we established, 14 carries is his ceiling. So I had to work with the possible information that I could use. This is amazing to me. So in the 19 games where Tony Pollard had at least 10 carries, he ran the ball 226 times for 1,324 yards. That is 5.9 yards per carry. So if you go back and look at, and you should look at the fan cam right now, is if you go back and look at the games in which Tony Pollard got at least 10 runs, he's averaging 5.9 yards per carry in those games. So it's not just against this year's Eagles team, and I get that in terms of like, how does he do against awesome defenses? But over the span of his career, when you give him the ball, he makes things happen.
Yeah, I like Tony Pollard, and I think that he's the guy that you need to give the majority of. If there's 25 carries, I would like to see him get 14 of them or 15 of them, and Zeke to get approximately 10. I think that is a good, if we're trying to do the mathematical thing on this, and I think with Tony Pollard, not that he's small, not that he's a scat back, but I do think that in today's game, for the most part, if you want a guy to somewhat be healthy at the end and give you the most at the end of the season and into the playoffs, giving a guy a ball 20 plus times a game over a 17-game season probably isn't the best formula. And I know there are some guys that can do it, but it's probably not the best formula.
And here's the next part of it. And I see multiple people saying this, and I totally get it. That's why my question was for 2022 and beyond. It feels like most people are on board with what you're saying, with like, hey, let's at least split it, if not give a nod towards Tony Pollard. I feel like that's where people were at the beginning of the season. What do you do beyond that, though? Because I see this from the 940. I'm not paying any running back past his rookie deal, and I totally get that. From the 817, don't make the same mistake twice. Don't put your money in a running back. And that, I mean, it's not Tony Pollard's fault that we didn't start taking advantage of him when it would have been more financially advantageous. But Tony Pollard's going to get paid. Will you concede that Tony Pollard will get paid somewhere? Not necessarily here, but somewhere.
Yeah, I think that he will get paid approximately $10 million or more per season on his new contract.
Okay. Now, then my question for y'all was going to be, do you want to pay that figure, or are you of the opinion that, hey, Tony Pollard, Thank you very much for your service. You might end up being great, but we've got burned on this before. And not just the Cowboys. Lots of teams have gotten burned on paying running backs.
I would lean towards letting the season play out, see how you feel he did, and then probably if you're making me lean in a no matter what, I would lean towards I would have loved to had a second or third round guy that I really like right now.
Yeah.
That's a rookie.
And Malik Davis is not there yet.
Right. So I will probably I will say in general, you shouldn't pay running backs. In general, you should just let them go after their fourth or fifth or possibly even sixth year. If you draft a guy in the first round and you want to franchise tag him and they say, well, I'm sitting out, you can say, all right, well, I hope you sit out. I mean, you're going to sit out the rest of your life. Here's the deal. You're never going to play football again. You can play it for me on the franchise tag, or your life is over as a football player.
Sure.
I wish you the best of luck in this world finding $10 to $15 million doing something else. I hate saying that as a former player, but that's the way I'd look at it. So with Tony Pollard, I lean towards letting him go, not because I don't like him a lot, but I think in the philosophy of salary cap, you have to always be churning a running back. Every third year, you need to be drafting a guy you like to take over as the lead back.
And I don't know. I've only seen this twice, so maybe this is a vocal minority or just a minority, is some people are like, this feels like a retread of Emmitt Smith against Troy Hambrick, but surely nobody thinks that Zeke is as good as Emmitt Smith, although at that time, clearly Emmitt was slowing down. And people would agree that Tony Pollard is better than Troy Hambrick.
I would
or at
hope
least
people realize that.
So, all right.
In a weird way, it is. I can't believe this, that I randomly, early in the season, watched a 1977 playoff game of the Chicago Bears versus the Dallas Cowboys and watched Robert Newhouse and Tony Dorsett. And I thought, gosh, there's a little bit of Robert Newhouse as Zeke Elliott, and there's a little bit of Tony Pollard as Tony Dorsett. Now, Tony Pollard's never making the Hall of Fame, won't even come close. And Tony Dorsett was a Hall of Fame running back. And Robert Newhouse was a prototypical fullback in a time where fullbacks had a job on all NFL teams. So I get that it's different. The game is very different from the 1970s and early 80s where Newhouse and Dorsett kind of were both in the backfield every single play. But they do make sense together that we have somewhat of our Newhouse and Dorsett combination here.
And I look, this is probably where I fall on this as well. It's kind of in line with you, Mike, from the 682. Zeke was the same type of running back as Pollard before he got paid. Do not, from the 817, do not draft it or do not pay another running back. We're drafting Bijan Robinson. I actually would not rule that out whatsoever. I've been thinking that for a while. But if you want to look at the logistics of the dollars and cents of it all, because I know that's what it means for a lot of people. If you cut Zeke after this year, the way everybody likes to do it, the way the Cowboys like to do it, they like to split it post June 1st. That would be a $5.9 million cap hit, and Zeke was supposed to count $16.7 million. So next year, if you cut Zeke, it would save you $10.8 million. Right about the spot for Tony Pollard, or you could take that money and invest it in any number of different other ways. I'm of the opinion that I appreciate it, although I do also see some people texting in and saying, but Tony Pollard doesn't have the same wear and tear on his body as somebody else finishing up their rookie contract. I get that as well. I guess I am not super savvy on paying the running back. I think Tony Pollard deserves to get paid, and I absolutely believe that. But I want to end it with going.
Can I ask this real quick? I'm watching the telecast yesterday. They were talking about the future of the Chicago Bears, and they have $120 million in cap space.
Right.
So just to give you an idea, when the Cowboys in the season, they're in a negative situation. They're going to have to figure out how to get under the cap. Not horribly, but they're going to have to figure it out.
And that's why they're carrying over some of that money. When people are like, what happened with the Amari Cooper money? That's one of the reasons they're doing that.
And I'm not saying Chicago has running backs and they're not going to go after Tony Pollard. But just to give you an idea, a lot of these teams with rookie quarterbacks under contract where they haven't paid them, they're going to be 50 to 100 million under the cap.
Sure.
Which then makes, when you're like, well, who's going to pay Tony Pollard? I don't know. When you have $120 million you need to spend in the offseason, you start going, who gives an S? Kind of like the Texas Rangers last offseason, and they're like, we literally have nobody we want to pay on this team.
Right.
So they're like, who gives an S? Just start spending money.
How about this? Ed Werder from ESPN tweeted the NFC East was a combined 3-1 on Sunday, is now 23-8 this season. The 742 win percentage is the best by any division through the first 8 weeks of the season since the damn 1970 merger.
Whoa!
Is this the best division we've ever seen post-merger, Brian? It's clearly the best NFC East we've seen. Maybe the best division in football history.
Man, I don't know about that, but I tell you what, it is
Greatest of all time, Broadus.
not the greatest of all
The greatest
time.
of all time.
Not the
Close to it.
Yeah.
3 teams, 6-2 or better. Can't find another
Man, I'm
division
trying to-
like this.
Daniel Jones, Taylor Heineke, and
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts.
Hope you can
And a
bait
little
it.
bit of Cooper Rush.
A little bit of Cooper Rush.
Best
in
of
there.
all time.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's the best of all time.
Because you don't got the balls.
Straight hating again.
I'm straight hating. I mean, the Giants. I'm kind of a Giants. I'm a Giants believer because of what they're doing. You know, with the, I think they're helping their quarterback and the running game and all that. But if they would have won at Seattle yesterday, I might have kind of said that. I might have gone with you on that.
Wow. Yeah, nice job by Geno Smith.
Yeah,
Company
Seattle
once
might
again.
be for real.
Yeah, for real, like maybe Atlanta or Minnesota is, you know? Like for real, like
Minnesota's 6-1.
not for real. Like we're for real. 4 other teams got to make the playoffs, but there's not many good ones out there.
Atlanta. If the playoffs started today, like they always say, you would go to Atlanta.
Oh yeah, it's shaping up to be a good wild card weekend.
I'll tell you what's looking like is if Philadelphia keeps playing like they are, you're going to end up playing I believe you're going to end up playing whoever wins the NFC South. That's
Okay.
that's going to be your first round.
And then how would that set up for the next round? If you're the top wild card team, do you go play Philadelphia after that, or no?
No, they will get the lowest.
They
seed.
would get the lowest seed, so
They
you
get
could
the
avoid
low-
Philadelphia easily till the NFC.
Yeah,
title game.
you can
Yeah.
exactly.
You just got to be in the best wild card spot.
Yep.
Which winning 12 games, which I'm picking them
Yeah,
to do
if
from this point forward.
you finish the 5th wild card spot, you are guaranteed. Well, depending on what happens.
I was going to say you need at
No,
least
it's gonna-
one other wild card team to win.
Well, who's gonna be worse than the NFC South? Do you think San Francisco is going to have a better record than anybody in the South?
Yeah, no, the worst division winner will come out of the NFC South, and it'll be one of these Atlantas or Tampas
yeah.
that won like maybe 9 games.
9-8, and you're gonna have to go to whoever, if it's Tampa or Atlanta.
Hey, somebody texted in that the Saints would have been in first place in that division if Carolina had won that game by way of tiebreaker, which could have had some incredible implications. Yeah, I don't know who's going to win that division. I think it's anybody's guess at this point. Okay, Michael Gelkin, morning news writer, friend of the show. We should get Gelks on here pretty soon, shouldn't we?
Yeah,
See
we
what he's up
became
to.
besties
Yeah.
in Oxnard.
He likes coming on.
Let's ring him up here, get him on here for a bye-week report or something like that. That'd be cool if he has time for us. He tweeted, Cowboys defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins played 33 defensive snaps on Sunday in the team debut, tying the highest snap count he recorded in 5 games this season with the Raiders. Dallas acquired Hankins in Tuesday's trade. Might not be the Cowboys' last deal. Gelkin's hearing stuff. Might not be the Cowboys' last deal. I like that. But tell us what you saw from Hankins, Brian. Do you think they got what they wanted?
No, they absolutely got what they wanted, and I tell you what, it was. I hadn't had a lot of. I've seen Hankins play before with the Giants and others, and always respected his game. And I'm kind of thinking, maybe this is just a stopgap guy, But I'll say this about him: Mike McCarthy talked about him playing square, talked about him getting off blocks. There was times in this game where he was one-on-one with the center, was able to dispatch him, get in on a tackle. He didn't get turned. He was taking on double-team blocks. He's a hard guy to move. Yeah, I mean, give me the – I'm going to tell you, that's a thumbs up for me because he did exactly what they needed him to do. Well, nobody moved him off his spot. And when he was coming off the ball, I mean, he was getting into those blockers, and they were trying, and they couldn't get him to go. But You block him one-on-one, it's very, very difficult if you're not ready for a guy that plays with that much power.
I love it.
Very positive about what that all 22 showed on him.
Not washed up at all. Sounds what it sounds like to me.
I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe stopgap. Let's see.
Yeah.
My guys, the gang of seven's like, no, for the things that he can do, he's all right. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right on.
But to see him, he did a nice job.
Let's not be done, though. Let's wake up tomorrow or have something tonight that really gets us excited here for the bye week. What do you say, Jerry? Okay, we go to the account of John Machota there with The Athletic. He tweets, Stephen Jones, when asked on The Fan if Tyron gets his left tackle job back when he returns. Quote, because he's 3 or 4 weeks out, we haven't really had that discussion at the end of the day. He's an all-pro Hall of Fame type player. If you're going to put your best 5 out there, I'm sure he's one of them. Yeah, so how else would you configure that? Would you play Tyron at right tackle? You don't want to do that. It's Tyron at left tackle, Tyler at left guard, right? That's how this is going to happen, but apparently they haven't talked much about it.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, I've yet to be right about what the configuration, because they don't always play my best 5. That's what I wonder if they would just slide Tyler Smith inside at guard and then put Tyron Smith at left tackle and play Smith, Biotish, Martin, and Steele.
Yeah.
Me personally, though,
that's the best 5, don't you think?
Well,
or no?
Terrence Steele has played. Now there was some, when you watch the all 22 folks, you're going to see some real close to being like, okay, Terrence Steele. I mean, he hangs in there, but there's some things. His run blocking, I think, has been outstanding. His pass blocking, at times, he gives up pressure, but it's late, ball gone, kind of pressure.
He gets a lot of help from the quarterback.
It's really close. But yeah, I kind of feel like, though, that to me, I mean, I think about playing Tyler Smith at right tackle and putting Tyron in his natural spot. But my opinion was last time heard over there at 2005.
Well, it'll be awesome if they do get Tyron back here in 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll be able to seriously talk about it. We go back to the account of Michael Gelkin. Cowboys linebacker Damone Clark played 40 snaps on defense, 17 on special teams during the debut Sunday against the Bears. All his defensive work came after Barr exited in the second quarter. Clark, who underwent a spinal fusion surgery in March, made 6 second-half tackles. What did you think of Damone Clark out of LSU?
Yeah, I think that Damone Clark, that was a tough situation for him to have to jump into, because I know he probably didn't get a lot of reps during the week, and having to play against that scheme.
Yeah, that's a welcome to the NFL moment. And Barr, is it because Barr went down, right, that he played so much?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And the thing with Clark, though, I kind of felt like that he was really trying not to make any mistakes. I've seen him at LSU play with just a lot more downhill.
Reckless abandon.
Yeah, getting after people and stuff like that. I thought he was fine for what he did. He got held. He completely got held on the touchdown run that they had with Montgomery that goes through the middle of the defense. Everybody's flowing to their right. He's flowing right. And Riley Reif, the tackle, comes inside and tries to cut him off. And, he grabs him. Hands outside the framework of Clark's body, and Clark's trying to fall back inside to make the play. Officials right there, don't see it. It's going to be a touchdown. But that was one of those things like, oh, well, Clark got washed. No, he got held on that play. I think if he doesn't get held, I do think he makes that play, but they didn't call it.
Well, it's good to hear. And Pro Football Focus had Clark as Dallas's 5th highest graded defender. Oh, so that's cool. That's a pretty good sign. But Broadus, if you watched the tape and felt like he played pretty well, then that's really
I don't
good.
think
he was the fastest player again.
Yeah,
too.
I when you watched him play, there were times where you could see him like, okay, I got to be sure, I got to be able to I got to be in position here. I can't get out of my lane. I can't do what
not able to play with instincts.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The first game, he's out there just trying to not make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And I think that the more that he gets to play, the more that he's going to play downhill. Trust me on that.
Well, you mentioned the speed. 22.19 miles per hour chasing Justin Fields, and that is the fastest time in the next-gen stat era by a linebacker.
Wow, dude can fly. I didn't know he was like that.
Between 3, think about your 3 young super freaks.
That's 3/4 of a mile faster than Micah last week.
Parsons, Sam Williams, and Damone Clark. That is 3 extraterrestrials out on your defense, all under the age of like 23 years old. It's amazing.
Nice job building this thing.